Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave original presented by Perplexity. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We are going to talk about the Women's National Championship game in a minute. But first, thank you guys for joining me in my return. Your boy been gone for a little while. Took a couple weeks. Went over to Indochina, you know what I'm saying? I think it's still okay to call it that. If it's not, my bad. Hey, Sean, I got a question for you, and I'm not just asking you this because you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But, like, are you a little bit surprised that the hotel is still called the Mandarin Oriental?
Yeah, that's a tough look, but I guess it's got that prestige that it'll never rub off, I guess.
I guess it honestly is making me wonder if the people involved have a problem with Oriental, right? Like we have this, we like clearly Oriental is an antiquity. It's not the sort of thing that we say anymore. However, ain't nobody marching outside the Mandarin Oriental, right? Like one would expect that the shutdown would take place. Like it really had me rethinking. Like damn, like maybe I got it wrong.
Like it's one thing when it's mascots and sports, but when it's a really 5-star luxury hotel, we kind of back away,
Yo, that's the thing, man. The Mandarin is dope. But anyway, I mean, Indochina's an antiquity. Okay, either way, I was far, far away. And I have historically not always been the greatest at, like, being on vacation and going on vacation. And I did a very good job of it this time. The only 2 stories that cut through the noise while I was gone, one of them was that story about the group chat with the reporter and all the Trump people. Remember that? That was one of them. The other one was that whole LeBron James, Stephen A. Smith thing that I had lots of thoughts on, but it's a little bit too late. Otherwise, I was out of here, man. I ain't really hear none of it. I wasn't keeping up on any of it. I got back home on Thursday morning. And, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I was having a little bit of a tough time getting myself back ready to come to work. Part of why I timed the vacation when I did was it was the NCAA tournament. I hadn't really been keeping up on college basketball. It would be a good time for me to go ahead and make a move, you know what I'm saying? And then I came back. I saw all 4 number 1 seeds had made it to the Final Four. I didn't know how I felt about that. I realized I had not watched 3 of those teams play even a minute of basketball. And then I looked at how the brackets might have shaken out, and it was possible that it was going to be a championship game that would, I don't know what natural disaster I would have been rooting for, but like there was things that could have happened that would have like made that go. You know what I'm saying? But then Saturday, I'm at the De La Casa. I watched the Auburn and Florida game. And I'm not saying the good guys won. I'm not even saying the good guy won. I am saying the bad guy lost, and that bad guy is that Bruce Pearl. There's something nice to say about Bruce Pearl. One of you has it. I'm not one of those people. I take great joy in watching him lose. I greatly appreciated that. And so then the next game came on, and it was the University of Houston versus Duke. And I just want to point out that my buddy Joe from Missouri City, his weird ass, he came on here on my show the other day and tried to literally take a friend away from me because he felt that I had not properly put on from the city of Houston and had not properly rooted for the Houston Cougars in their basketball season. Now, never mind the fact I wasn't paying no attention to the whole damn thing, but Joel, in, again, a really perplexing attempt to try to take a friend away from me, even though I don't think that friend of mine would hang out with him ever. He tried to do this. Anyway, that happened. And so I'm watching Houston play against Duke in the game. And if we're being honest about this, and this has always been this case with Kelvin Sampson basketball. It's you can only really root for them if you already root for them, right? It's an aesthetically unpleasant sort of basketball. I saw somebody say that their practice looks like all they do is run suicides and punch each other in the mouth. I say it looks like they practice without a basketball. Like that's just what they do. They go hard. They got a bunch of dudes that look like they not gonna go to the NBA. They got a bunch of dudes that look like they don't even think they're gonna go to the NBA, right? And so I'm watching them, and Duke is clearly more talented, right? Duke is kind of giving them the work. They really are, you know? And so you get to the end of the game. I want to say it's about 4 minutes left, and it is a 4-point game. All right? So I'm in my living room. It's a 4-point game. It's getting late. You know, my body's in between time zones or whatever. And so I'm like, all right, I'll go watch the rest of the game in my bedroom, in my bed that I missed so much while I was gone. Okay? I understand that some of you guys don't appreciate when I try to put you up on game like this. You think I'm just throwing money in your face, and that's not what I'm doing. I am telling you, however, a point that I have been made for you a few different times. And that point is you need to get the best mattress that you can afford. However much mattress you can afford, you should never try to save money on your mattress. And so I spent what most would consider to be a lot of money on my mattress, and it is glorious. It just hugs me. It really, really does. The problem is when you got your dream mattress at home, hotel mattresses, especially when you start going to other countries, it ain't the same for your lumbars. You feel what I'm saying? So anyway, I went to go get into my wonderful bed and watch the last 4 minutes of that game. And then when I got back to my wonderful bed, I turned on the television, and, you know, Sean, the television wanted me to agree to some new terms of service, the new terms and conditions. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I forget that the TV can do this stuff, right? And so it wants new terms and conditions. And then after I do that, it's like, go to the settings and add a new password. What the fuck, my TV got a password, right? Like, what are you talking about? Like, all these things are happening. I'm like, what's going on? What?
The TV just knows when you're coming back from a break, and they do it at the moment,
right.
The last absolute moment you want to be doing this. The TV's like, why don't I re-sign Bo up?
Yeah, right. Like, I don't care about any of this stuff, right? So I'm fumbling around with it, right? And then next thing I know, it's a 9-point game. And so, of course, it's a 9-point game with like 3 minutes or something like that. And I'm like, oh, this game is definitely over. There's no chance that Houston is going to win this, but I've already got the TV on, so I'm going to go ahead and watch this. My brother said that he actually turned the game off because he could not stand the misery of watching Duke go ahead and win that. And buddy, he lost out. The details barely even matter. The University of Houston, they did it for Third Ward. They did it for the South Side. They even did it for the North Side. They did it for Acres Homes. They did it for Sunnyside. They even did it for the boys in the suburbs. They even did it for the boys out in the country. They didn't just do it for Houston, though. They ain't just do it for the state of Texas because they did it in San Antonio. Hell nah. They did it for the culture. They did it for America. White folks, gangsters, and the thugs. They did it for everybody that was ever raised right in this world, and they sent Duke the fuck up out of here. I don't know where to begin in talking about my level of joy. And again, I was kind of feeling like I wasn't feeling it all. It had me wondering if I still had it in me in some ways to do this, because normally I'm so excited to get back from vacation. Boy, I saw Duke catch that L, and this is after we had heard about how they was mad about their portrayal in The White Lotus. We'll get back to that in a second. Sean, go ahead and put it on the screen. This is the best part. This is from Cameron Indoor Stadium. They had a watch party. This is what it looked like when they realized they was getting that ass tapped. Look at them. Look how silent they are. Look how sad they are. Put them jorts back on the screen. You can run this on a loop forever. ever, I tell you, ever. It could just be just the joint with the arrows when you play on Spotify. There you go. Look at them. They look so just a collection of silent dorks. Yeah. There you go, you losers. There you go. Okay, you can take them down. No, one more time. My bad. One more time. I didn't mean to take the joy away from the people. Okay, now we good. Hell yeah. Do you see my legitimate excitement about this? Do you understand the pure... Oh, Sean. Just great. Like, you're a little younger, so you weren't around for just the peak time of hating Duke. But man, that made my day.
Yeah, it was great when you hopped on before we started the show, and you were like, I really didn't want to do a show, obviously coming back from vacation, but the fact that Duke lost, now I'm excited. And I was like, yeah, we're getting peak Bo right now. This is peak hater Duke Bo. This is what people have known and loved about you when you get hot and you get excited about Duke losing.
Yeah, no. And it's interesting because like people are putting it on Cooper Flagg. He got called for the foul on the box out. He missed a shot at the end. Hey, man, missing shots happens. But he has had this run where he had 2 different games at crunch time where he just fell down. And then he missed that shot right there at the end. And I have to say about Cooper Flagg, he doesn't seem nearly as insufferable as I would expect somebody named Cooper Flagg to be. You know what I'm saying? Like you put a dude named Cooper, and he plays for Duke.
It was bound to be as bad as we thought it would be, and it actually didn't end up being as bad, right?
Yeah, like you think about this for a second. There is a chasm, shall we say, a chasm between what it means if we call you Coop because your last name is Cooper, or we call you Coop because your first name is Cooper. Like, they're not the same.
They don't sound differences.
They don't sound the same at all. Like, you go into a room and be like, hey, yo, Coop. And depending on who pops up, you know whether it's the first name Cooper or last name Cooper. I had a sweet mate we call Coop. He last name Coop, obviously, right? There's Cooper Flagg, duh. First name Coop, whatever it is. Anyway, Duke caught that L. Now, I want to say something in a small bit of a hold on. There is somebody in the chat room who says, and I quote, only partially likable Duke team was the Shane Battier, Jason Williams team.
What?
Shane Battier is the first name you said, and you thought that was the partially likable Duke team. No, the only partially likable Duke team was the 1999 Duke team with Elton Brand, Corey Maggette, Will Avery, Trajan Langdon, Chris Carrawell, and Shane Battier coming off the bench. His presence was muted. That one right there. You talking about the Shane Battier team was partially likable. KP, I know you're going to think that this sounds harsh, but Lance, get him up out of here.
Wow.
Get him up out of here.
Monday morning boot for that comment.
Yeah,
wow.
There's no telling what he might do next. like that's what it comes down to. I don't get you out of here until there's no telling what we can't do next. In fact, Sean, can you ask Perplexity the most hateable Duke team ever? I'm just curious what Perplexity will have to say about that.
Yeah, let me put it up right now, and we'll watch the search in real time.
Yeah. Go ahead and say this. That's what I want to know on this one. But no, I've been seeing people try to make the argument. Well, it's not even an argument. I think it's something that people have lost sight of. I don't think that citing how many 5-star recruits Duke has had in the last 10 years and the fact they haven't won a national championship, I don't think that really makes what I think is the most important point. Oh, wow. Hold on. We'll get back to that.
So
Sean, I have to be honest.
So Perplexity basically did their own hateable Duke starting 5 with evidence. So
yes.
At point guard, Grayson Allen. Shooting guard, JJ Redick. Small forward, Shane Battier, obviously. Power forward, Kyle Singler. Center, Christian Laettner. And they gave us a whole bench lineup as well.
Yeah, because I think, first of all, I think Kyle Singler's getting a bad rap. And second of all, is their argument? I'm not sure how they put together the starting lineup. Because Grayson Allen, is it by hateability or how good they are as basketball players? Because Grayson Allen is like, he the last Mohican. You know, he and Justice Winslow on that team, like, I feel like they were the last for real, like, oh, yeah, y'all Duke guys. Both of them like hitting people in the nuts. Can't stand them. Either one. Even if Justice Winslow is from Houston. Can't stand either one of them. JJ Redick, yeah. Kyle Singler, you know, he's had a bad rap lately. And Perplexity says, though not as universally despised as others. That is correct. Greg Paulus, Austin Rivers, Danny Ferry, and the most hateable Dookie of all, Steve Wojciechowski.
Yeah, I'm shocked he wasn't a starter.
Yeah, I just feel like Perplexity might be too young to understand what it is, and since he didn't go to the NBA or anything like that. But back to the lecture at hand, and thank you, Perplexity. Oh, Danny Ferry. Danny Ferry was hateable then he got much more hateable, you know, after he said that whole thing about Luol Deng having a bunch of African in him. You remember that?
That wasn't that recently, too?
Yeah, it was I forget how long ago it was. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
That's an all-time classic clip. He just says, he's got a lot of African in him. Whoa! And it was a very thorough, like, what having a lot of African in him meant. I thought he was just going to say he smelled bad, right? No. He went all the way through. Like, not that I think that Luol Deng smells bad. I just say that sound like something that Danny Ferry would say about him. Anyway, yes, they've had 32 five-star recruits in the last 10 years. They have not won a national championship. What people don't get is that Duke made a decision about 15 years ago that they were going to get into the one-and-done game, and they had stayed away from it for the longest. Kyrie Irving is the paradigm-shifting recruit. Well, John Wall was the paradigm-shifting recruit. Kyrie Irving was the one who shifted, and they actually got him to come on campus, right? And so that leads you to a run of Kyrie Irving, who leads you into Austin Rivers, who gets you to Jabari Parker, who gets you to Justice Winslow and Jaleel Okafor and Tyus Jones, and it gets you to Zion eventually, like all of those guys. But while Duke was not winning any championships by taking this approach, Calipari, he basically wound up losing his job at Kentucky by holding on to this approach. What nobody talked about was Duke got embarrassed in the 2009 NCAA tournament, and it made them realize they needed to change everything. Though I was in North Carolina at the time. I was doing radio there. I was covering it. The biggest change that those people wanted was not even so much that they go out there and that they get a bunch of five-star recruits. What they wanted them to do was to go out there and, goddamn it, go get some black people. I was there, and I know that was how they wanted, because I remember doing radio for that 2009, 8-9 season, and everybody kept talking about coming in that year, and they were just like, Duke, the recruiting has turned around. And when they were talking about how the recruiting had turned around, they were talking about a recruiting class that was going to feature Josh Hairston, Tyler Thornton, and Andre Dawkins. Andre Dawkins eventually had to get into school a year early because Ellie Williams, all this stuff. All I'm telling you is, getting those guys does not necessarily mean you're going to win a national championship. That's not necessarily the path. What we've seen happen for teams to win national championships is you need a bunch of grown men that look like they just got off work at UPS. Like, that's where Bruce Pearl was trotting out there for Auburn. I ain't even looked them dudes up. Them motherfuckers look old as hell. Like, that's what the game is. The Duke brand has started to look bad, and so they decided to go with, we're going to get the guys and we're going to put them in the NBA. And truly, that's one way to do it, but what you are going to, by and large, wind up with is a bunch of kids. And sometimes a bunch of kids is going to lose to a team like Carolina in 2022, for example, that had 5.5 players, but a lot of those guys were old, or enough of them were like super-duper grown men. That's what it is. They've just chosen a different way. Like, the last time they won a national championship, it was with the bunch of kids, right? There was a bunch of one-and-done cats. I think Quinn Cook was still on that team or whatever, but I can't remember right now. Forgive me. But that's just one way to go about it. I don't think it's an indictment of them that they haven't won a national championship with all those All-Americans, because those All-Americans aren't sticking around that long. Also, 5-star, very broad term, right? The number 1 recruit and the number 30 recruit are typically both 5 stars, and there's a world between those two guys. But yeah, they just, I don't know if the way they do it is the best way to do it. And that's a fair question to ask, is if the way they do it is the best way to do it, rather than criticizing them for having all the talent and not winning, because the talent's not sticking around long enough to necessarily bear fruit, right? They might want to rethink the approach, because while they were redoing their approach, North Carolina's approach kind of went in the other direction, and they did not have the top-line stars. Like, Carolina has not been a program to produce quality NBA players in the last 15 to 20 years. More like 15, because they've had some guys. But they have not been that program. But in that same time period where Duke has now won a national championship, Carolina won 1 and got to the national championship game 3 times, which Duke has not done in that time frame. Because getting old and getting grown is more important than just having the most talented players at this point. Cal took all those guys with him to Arkansas, and what happened with him when they went to Arkansas was those guys were a little bit older, and it worked out better. But having a bunch of kids, it's not. You can clearly get a long way, right? Duke got to the national championship game. And then you wind up playing them hard scrabble Houston boys, and they send you to the crib. All I'm saying is this. Whatever Duke is doing to get players, if it ends like this, do it until the end of time. If doing what they do results in them losing in a heartbreaking, embarrassing fashion, do it forever. Don't ever stop. I'm going to say one thing before we go, by the way, because this is the funniest thing I think to happen in the national championship game. Sean, if you could pull up this other clip. Guys, we're going to show you guys a clip here of the greatest player in the history of University of Houston basketball, Hakeem Olajuwon. Now, Hakeem Olajuwon in this clip is having a conversation with a man as he is attempting to go onto the court to celebrate with the Houston Cougars, and the man says Olajuwon cannot get on the court because apparently you did not have the proper credential. And I just want to know, okay? And maybe he's a stickler for rules. I don't know what it is. I don't think that's what happened, because somebody tried to explain to him who that is. Who did you think this 60-year-old, 7-foot-tall Nigerian man was? That close already. If he was not Hakeem Olajuwon, who did you think he was? And if being Hakeem Olajuwon can't get him on the court, I can only assume that means one thing. That old self-important walkie-talkie motherfucker, he could only be a Spurs fan. You're still mad because Olajuwon made a fool of David Robinson that one time. That's all it comes down to. I just can't stop it laughing because I can hear Olajuwon's voice as he is shocked and he cannot believe that this man will not let him on the floor. He cannot believe it. Oh, my goodness. What a terrible thing to do. But it's okay, Dream. You'll be there for the national championship game. Them boys from Duke gonna be at the crib. Oh, man. Whew, I loved it. Good gracious, I loved it. Moving on. I watched the women's national championship game on Sunday afternoon. Sean, did you watch it?
I sure did. I did think the start time for a very prime time, very big national championship game being at, it was 3 o'clock Eastern?
Yes.
Noon Pacific was not ideal. I feel like you could have got more eyes if it was a little later, but it was a great game regardless.
I mean, I feel like somebody must have told them something, right? Right? They must have known something. And I'm not 100% sure that they would have gotten more eyes if they played it at night. And this is I'll throw this out as an example. This is kind of a hypothesis in lines with this, that the number one primetime television show in America is Sunday Night Football. But the game of the week in late afternoon if I'm not mistaken, typically outdraws the game, the Sunday night game. Sean, you might want to check with Perplexity on that one. But you see what I mean? Like, I'm not on a Sunday. I'm not sure it is better to play that game at night. And my old ass definitely appreciates them doing that at 3:00 in the afternoon, right? Like, I personally, it worked out well for me. So anyway, I watched the game. It's UConn and it is South Carolina. And buddy, if I told you I ain't watched none of the men's game this year, I'm not gonna lie to you and pretend like I had been watching the women's game this year. I popped in, I seen some highlights. I had a pretty good handle on who was pretty good. But something that like happened, and I guess I wasn't paying the most attention when it went down, but I did not realize that UConn had not won a national championship in 9 years. I didn't realize it had been that long. I had noticed that they weren't winning national championships, but I didn't realize it had been 9 years. What I also didn't realize in that time period was they had still made it to 6 Final Fours while not winning those national championships. Now, look, we're not that far removed for them. They won 4 straight championships. That 16 was the 4th straight one that they had won. Look, we know what they are, right? They were and have been the UCLA of this, more or less. The thing about the UCLA run with Wooden was that they won 10 championships in 11 years, and then they didn't win another one for 30 years. Like, after John Wooden left, I want to say they only made 2 Final Fours before they won the national championship in 1995. They made the Final Four in 1980. That was eventually vacated. And no, I don't even know if they had another one before they won in 95 because they didn't go in 92. They lost to Indiana in the Elite Eight round that year. Like, I say that to say that after UCLA had that run, they weren't really UCLA after that or anything truly approaching it. Like the Bartow and Larry Brown years, yes. Then they had 2 coaches. Walt Hazard was one of them. I forget who the other one was, but they had to fire before they brought in Jim Herrick, and they weren't happy until 95, and then they let go of him. And then they had Steve Lavin there for a while, and they were never very happy with him. And then they went and brought in Ben Howland, and they, even going to the Final Fours, they weren't happy with him. But I say all that to say, UConn wound up in a position that in my lifetime, I can't quite think of a team to do this, though I guess Duke had a time where they had to come back up and this happened for them in men's basketball. But basically, UConn became the upstart program again in some ways. Like, think of all the people that have emerged as we're talking about women's basketball and its rise in prominence in these last few years, like the emergence of the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, the emergence of Dawn Staley and Kim Mulkey, I think, being the 2 coaches that we think of being out front in the women's game at this point. And while all of this was happening, UConn was kind of still right there, right? Like, the Caitlin Clark emergence happened in part because of the Paige Bueckers injuries that kind of slowed down where she was in this. But then you stop and remember last year that Connecticut-Iowa game in the Final Four, right? With the moving screen that got called late and everything else. UConn in the era with Bueckers, and again, there was the ACL tear, and I think there was an ankle injury that happened before that or whatever. I don't know how often it happens where you have somebody who comes into school as hyped as Paige Bueckers was, or as famous as she was coming in, and she had a much more traditional, like, climb to get to this national championship where you get to the end of it and you're like, yo, you kind of went through it with her, right? Like, she had a lot of things happen while she was in school, and then she eventually wound up being the person on top. Where for so long it seemed like if you were a top-notch women's basketball player and you wanted to win a championship, then you had to go to UConn because everybody else that was going to win was going to UConn. This was the move. And for Bueckers, it was a grind to make that happen. It was a story in order to get there. And you had the moment with her coming off the floor and hugging Gino Auriemma and hugging back. And I thought that was a great story where Gino said that, I told her I loved her. And she said, I told Gino I hate him. Which I just thought that was absolutely hilarious. But I thought it was great for the women's game to have that reemergence of your traditional power and the fact that they had to fight and they had to claw in order to get that. Now, Sean, I'm looking at these UConn stats right now.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this. They went undefeated for the regular season in 17, undefeated for the regular season in 18, made the Final Fours and did not win. Like, they've gone through Heartbreak City with this.
Yeah, and I think your comment about Paige and this specific Geno team is that, like, they lost their streak of consecutive Final Four appearances in 2022, and it took them 3 years to get back to the point they are now, which is obviously like one of the most storied franchises or dynasties in college sports. But the gap from it was 2016 was their last national championship. So that's almost 9 years of, like you said, grinding back. And you're grinding back with top recruits at the end of the day. So you can't feel that bad for this team, but it was certainly a grind.
Yeah, I mean, it's not no. See, you can't. I do think there's room for like feel bad in the sense that this is a sport where everybody but one team loses their last game.
Yep.
You know, and that losing that last game is tough. And I can only imagine what the pressure is around the team, right? Like, you play for UConn and y'all ain't won nothing. And they've been close enough. They've been getting to the precipice. They had all these years where they did not lose a conference game. Sean, since the 2013-2014 season, they've lost 3 conference games.
It's insane.
3, but had fallen behind.
Yep.
Right? They're not at all who we think about when we start talking about what's going on at the top of the game. Like, we talk about who is the top coach. Like, if you were to ask most of us the top coach in women's basketball right now, I think we would say Dawn Staley.
Of course.
They beat their asses. Like, it's not just like they won. They beat the dignity out of South Carolina. Because I'm sorry, South Carolina looked bad. Go ahead.
Yes, and there's that clip that's being memed now of Dawn Staley on the bench screaming "fuck," and it's like you've really never seen Dawn Staley lose her composure like that in this stretch for Carolina until obviously she met this buzzsaw of a UConn team.
Yeah, but like, man, that was a bad look.
Really,
like
bad.
I think let me tell you something. I personally enjoy very few things more than I enjoy watching an adult lose their mind. Right? Like that brings me great joy. Watching an adult just be so mad and they can't do just completely out of sorts. Oh my goodness, that is hilarious. However, they got clips of looking at women on South Carolina's bench in tears while the game is still going on, right? In tears. And meanwhile, their coach looks like she cannot hold her shit together at all. Like, that clip of her like that in the midst of the game. Oh, no. That was not how I would want to be seen in that moment. And in that moment, if I'm on the team and the coach looks like that, what are we doing here? What do you think? I'm supposed to pull her together now? Like one thing about college basketball, and this is in both genders, that I do think is different than the NBA, which is there are far more coaches that cannot hold their water in college basketball than there are in the pros, right? Plenty of examples of teams and coaches that are good to choke it away for their guys, all right? I watched Kansas win a national championship in 2008 in large part because in the national semifinals game, Roy Williams choked it away for his guys against Kansas, and then John Calipari choked it away with an 8-point lead with 2 minutes left in the game against for Memphis against Kansas in national championship. And then Bill Self, who is known for choking games away, got himself that national championship at long last. But we see coaches choke away games for their teams all the time. And it becomes even more important in college for you as the coach to be the one to hold it together because you're not dealing with adults there. And I saw that clip of Dawn Staley losing it on the bench, and I was just like, oh, no, that's bad. That's all bad. It's just really kind of no other way to look at it. That was all bad for them. They've had a great run and everything else, but it is, you're going to lose, that's one thing. You're going to get beat down, that's one thing. You're going to go out there and lose your composure, that's bad news. That is not the way that you want this to end. That is not the way that you want this to go. However, by the way, especially after you spend all this time talking about how y'all don't get enough respect. Not good. Not good. But in the macro, for all of this, this is the year. This is the year without Caitlin Clark, right? Like, this is the year about how much of the momentum from this ad hoc shift, this ad hoc shock to the system that a singular phenomenon is. How does that build for the game? And I'm not sure there are many things that could have been better than kind of a re-emergence of Goliath. They're back, right? They never went that far away, but they're back, right? And now you've got this handful of people that if you're somebody who doesn't really follow this game that closely, you've got a handful of familiar, recognizable names as coaches, as programs, as champions. And the biggest one just came back and got into space. Now, Paige Beckers is not going to be back. After a wonderful 12-year career, she will begin to draw her pension. And she will head off to the WNBA. I didn't realize she had been there for 5 years. Like, damn, you've been here forever. She the Tyler Hands pro of women's ball.
And it's like, obviously injuries are one thing, but I was like, man, yes. She's in the same draft class as Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, and they've been in the W. They've had seasons.
Yes.
It's wild.
Yeah, no. Now, this is going to be the best part about women's ball. Now we get to start. One of the favorite things to do at men's ball is when you joke about people that have been in school forever. We get to do that with them now. Now I know enough of them to tell these jokes. Who's the Scotty Reynolds of women's basketball, for example? I need to get to that place. The ones that are good but not great, but it still feels like they've been in school forever. So we can roll those guys out there. Oh, man. Once we can start doing that, because it's hard to do with men's ball, now they all stay for 15 years. But now that we can do this with women's ball, that's how you know it's a real. That's how you know it's the real thing. This episode is presented by Perplexity. Perplexity is an AI-powered answer engine that searches the internet in real time to deliver fast, clear, high-quality answers. Unlike legacy search engines that respond with a list of links, Perplexity skips straight to the answers you need, explained in everyday language that's easy to understand with sources and citations. Now, Sean, how do you use Perplexity, especially when it comes to the right time?
Bo, obviously, I've been using it all throughout the show, especially when you need questions answered or stats confirmed. But, say you're curious about a specific topic from our If You Haven't Heard segment. For example, if I wanted to know more about this corporate espionage happening with a company called Rippling, I can simply search the question on Perplexity and get a full summary of the entire situation, which you could see here. And I would recommend you reading it because it is insane.
Hey, man, you got to love reading about honeypots and corporate espionage, and incredible that we got that answer so quickly. Discover faster, more reliable search with Perplexity today. Download the app or ask Perplexity anything at perplexity.com. You ready to win real money this March Mania tourney? Struggling to choose which team will pull off an upset? Forget about the teams. All you need to focus on are player stats to rack up big cash prizes with DraftKings Pick 6. When it comes to massive payouts, DraftKings dunks all over the competition.
Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. Track your picks for a shot to win huge cash prizes. It's as simple as that. It's super easy. All you need to do is pick 6 players and decide whether their points, rebounds, or assists will be more or less. Turn your March Mania knowledge into cash today. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly with just a $5 entry.
Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code Bomani. That's code Bomani for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Help is available for problem gambling. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as a non-withdrawable Pick 6 credit that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer.
Sean, you know I stopped drinking, but apparently there's a great product for people who want to have a better tomorrow after a night out.
Yeah, I got to tell you about this game-changing product, Bo. I use it before a night out with drinks. It's called pre-alcohol. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. I have to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great next day. That is until I found pre-alcohol. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. And here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. In this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow.
Now, that seems too good to be true, man.
You know, I was on the fence about it also, but every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice the difference immediately the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on bouncing back the next day to tackle whatever the day has in store for me.
This March Madness, don't let anything sideline your celebrations. Grab pre-alcohol before you go out and be ready to cheer on your team all day and night long. Go to zbiotics.com/Bomani to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Bomani at checkout. ZBiotics is back with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/Bomani and use the code Bomani at checkout for 15% off.
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. No need for the social media feeds. We got you. Now, if you haven't heard.
Bo, I had to leave this image up because if you haven't heard, the White Lotus finale was last night.
First of all, I have to say this about White Lotus. The finale was terrible. Let's just get that out the way right now. That was, I know what it looks like when the paper is due tomorrow and a C is better than a nothing, right? Like that was some C- work that they put out there. But you know, the Duke people are mad. They hold a little storyline about the accused embezzler, and he's a Duke grad. But them people ain't mad that this dude is an accused embezzler wearing all that Duke gear. That's not what they mad at. They mad that that man having a Southern accent and being a Duke grad. That's the part that they mad at. And they got that whole plot line wrong. Whole plot line wrong. That particular man right there, like, you know, and I get the idea. She went to Carolina, he went to Duke. That's what they're going for. They got her right. That guy, and the way he talks and everything else, and being from North Carolina, never would have gone to Duke. If he did, he would have had to pay his own way because his parents would have never spent money for him to go to Duke. Now, that whole thing about being an insufferable embezzler who might try to kill his own family, I can see it. I don't know about the killing his whole family part, but you know, Richard Nixon did go to Duke. You know what I'm saying? Like that part fits. But that's what they mad at. He don't sound like he from New Jersey. That's what they don't like. But anyway, that whole episode was trash.
Yeah, not the finale I was hoping for, but we can get to this first clip right here for if you haven't heard.
Yes.
Hello, this is Jaron Lanier. I am a scientist and musician and writer. My latest piece for The New Yorker is called Your AI Lover Will Change You. Well, we are about to transform the way AI is experienced by people. We're giving AI what we call an agentic quality. And by we, I mean computer science and the tech industry as a whole. Agentic means the AI will remember things about you and will be able to go and do things without detailed micromanagement from you. And my piece is about how these qualities could activate your theory of mind, which is the part of you that assesses whether something else is alive. And you'll start to treat these AIs like they're alive. And since you're a human, it won't be uncommon for people like you to fall in love with the AIs. What does it mean? Well, I find it worrying, and that's what the piece is about. We unleashed social media on the world in this very idealistic way, but it turned out that commercial incentives made it go sour for a lot of people. Will the same thing happen with lovable AI? I hope not. I write these kinds of things in the hope of preventing bad outcomes. Let's see if it does any good this time.
First of all, Jaron, the world needs more of you. You know what I'm saying? You fighting a good fight. That's good to know. Second of all, like, and Sean, I don't, you are not of like the chat room age or whatever, but I do think that most of us at some point had like developed some measure of crush or whatever with somebody that we only knew by a handle and that we like typed to and went back and forth, which is
For sure.
not the same as not the same as an AI lover, but is not terribly different.
Yeah, I've had a lot of like AOL, AIM, chat, like,
Yeah.
crushes or stuff that, like, should I
Yeah.
pursue this person who I don't really even know outside of just the keyboard,
Yeah. Yeah, like, hey, let me get that picture, homie. Not homie, but like let's get some of this mystery up out of here. If you don't mind, that would be really cool. But humans are losing the value of other humans. It's a thing. It matters a lot. And oh God, I'm just scared. Like, Sean, that's just all I think about when I see stories like this. I'm just like, what are we doing? What is this going to be? Like, I've read these stories about people truly falling head over heels in love with like AI chats and stuff like that. And I hear you, except for the fact that it's not a person.
Yeah, and I think ultimately that is what people are starting to like, is that it's not a person. They don't have to deal with the fallout of people, and that they're like, they don't want to deal with the ups and downs of a relationship, just someone who likes them for, what the AI is programmed to like them for.
So is this the extension of people getting dogs because kids talk back?
Right. Yeah, I feel like that's a similar kind of metaphor of like, people just don't want to deal with rejection, or the dating life is hard, so why not just type a chat or have an AI bot be my lover?
And my immediate explanation for that is too crass for me to say somewhere where my mother is listening, but all I'm saying, it's things the computer can't do.
Yep.
Let's move on.
I gotcha. Here's the next one.
Hey, I'm Manisha Krishnan. I'm a journalist who recently wrote a story for Business Insider about why Gen Z med students don't want to become family doctors. America doesn't have enough family doctors. By 2037, the National Center for Health Workforce Analysis predicts there will be a shortage of about 87,000 family doctors. The problem is worse in rural communities, and people of color often face extra barriers. The good news is a lot of Gen Zers want to become physicians, but many don't want to become primary care doctors, which includes family medicine, pediatrics, and gynecologists. There are a bunch of reasons for this, but one of the more surprising ones I learned about was that other doctors look down on family medicine. There's even a term for it, specialty disrespect. I spoke to a med student at Georgetown who said some of her professors discouraged her from going into family medicine because they thought she was too smart and too talented for it. It's a job that doesn't pay as well as other fields of medicine, although the average salary is still over $255,000. For comparison, plastic surgeons, some of the highest paid doctors, make an average salary of around $620,000. Family doctors also have to do more administrative work, and they're paid per visit, which means they often have to rush through appointments. But family doctors are the backbone of our healthcare system. They're the ones that people interact with the most. Experts told me medical schools can do more to encourage students to go into family medicine. But they also said the payment model needs to change so that they're not as pressured to see lots of patients every day.
So, Sean, what is terrifying me about this is like the idea that they need to give them more money so they don't have to see all these patients. They don't have to do that. They're just being greedy.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But what terrifies me in hearing it is this sounds like an industry full of people who are not in it to help.
Yeah,
right? Like the idea that I'm saying, but like the idea these people are going to tell you, don't be a family doctor. Like these other jokers are going to look down on you. The point of being a family doctor or being a pediatrician is that you want to help people. Like that's what would have always been my thought on that.
And in my head, I bet that was their original intention. And then they get there, and then there's the politics of, like you said, like having to squeeze in more patients to get more money into the facilities that over time probably forces them to dislike or resent the original reason why they came into business, you know?
But see, I'm not as sure that people are getting into this to help.
Yeah.
I think that there's on one level, I think there's probably a challenge element of it, right? And like the ability to say that you're a doctor and all those things, right? Like I think that part comes into it. I think obviously the money element is there, but I have a good friend from graduate school who used to always say that doctors are just glorified mechanics. Except mechanics, I firmly believe, care more about cars than a lot of these doctors care about people. I think that mechanics love cars more than the average doctor loves people.
That's really fascinating you said that, because I have an older car and I brought it into a new body shop, and the guy told me his story of how he got into the mechanic business, and it was kind of tragic. He lost his brother to a car accident, and it was because of a car malfunction. He said, I vowed from this day forward to make sure this doesn't happen to other people. And he was like, I really want to make sure cars are running and that there's no kind of malfunction for people on the roads. And I was like, that's very admirable. And I was like, whoa, this guy genuinely loves cars. And I didn't feel like I was getting the short end of the stick of someone like lying to me about what's actually wrong with my car, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. And like I'm lucky. I got a job that I thoroughly enjoy doing, right? And I feel like in some ways I help people, all of that stuff. I can't imagine doing a job like being a doctor and feeling disconnected from that. But what I'm hearing sounds like people being disconnected from that.
For sure. And there's someone mentioned in the comments, but there's a show on HBO right now called The Pit, which is just absolutely incredible if you have a chance to check it out. But it's about one 15-hour shift for ER doctors, and each episode is an hour. And, you know, the showrunners and the main character talked about how a lot of these doctor shows are patient focused, not doctor focused. And especially in an ER emergency room setting, he's like, the amount of doctors that have unchecked PTSD or trauma that they have to just bury and fight through each day because the grind is so relentless. It's a really like enlightening look of just how fucking hard it is to be a doctor and how unforgiving it is, or it's like the most thankless job imaginable. And it's like, yeah, why would anyone after seeing something like The Pit want to go into something like that, you know?
Yeah. Something I don't think people recognize, and this is the God's honest truth. They don't pay you a lot of money. There ain't too many jobs that pay a lot of money for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I got one of the last one of those jobs.
yeah.
There ain't that many of them.
And even then, sometimes you're like, ugh, I got to record today, you know? It's just because it's just the nature of that, right? Like,
first, that's the ultimate first world problems right there. But I recognize in terms of like income to fund ratio, boy, I got one of the last winners on that.
Yep. All right, we'll end with this on If You Haven't Heard.
Hey, I'm Amy Piercy, a freelance tech and culture reporter. I recently wrote a story for Business Insider about how nerds have found a cure for America's loneliness epidemic. Once considered a niche hobby for fantasy lovers in basements, tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons, also known as D&D, have gone mainstream. Back in 1968, Gary Gygax, co-creator of D&D, organised the first ever tabletop convention in his basement with just a handful of people. Fast forward today, and the Gen Con convention in Indiana is setting attendance records, with over 71,000 people showing up. Meanwhile, Dungeons & Dragons now has more than 50 million players worldwide. The past decade has brought a massive resurgence to these games. Shows like Stranger Things have given D&D a boost, and during the COVID-19 lockdowns, many turned to tabletop role-playing games as a way to stay connected while apart. Research shows the benefits of these games go beyond just fun. They help with creativity, stress relief, and even personal growth. Some players have used D&D as a way to help them process difficult emotions. One person even created a monster in the game to represent their grief, allowing them to process it in a safe, private space. And thanks to the internet, niche communities have grown into something far bigger. Being a nerd used to mean you were part of a small, specific group. Now, fandom is everywhere. When everyone's a nerd, nothing feels as exclusive anymore, and that's made it easier to build supportive, unique communities in the world of tabletop gaming.
You know, I was thinking as I was hearing that, there's a thing about the internet that it brings a lot of people together, but I have long contended that it also brings together a lot of people who needed to feel alone, right? Like a lot of communities that sprout up on the internet. I wish none of you knew that other people felt the same way, right? Like you guys would be better isolated, not getting just enough of y'all together to really come up here and blow something up, right? But for like the harmless dorks, like the ones that she describes, this is great. Right? I was really hearing this and thought about it. And I was just like, the internet, like, I don't know if anybody's winning more from the presence of the internet than harmless dorks.
Yeah, this story is quite the opposite of the AI love story in the beginning, where like, you know, you're finding loneliness, but then you're seeking community within the internet of like-minded people, and it's like healthy, and the community is growing,
Right.
and it's like building relationships. Like I have friends that play D&D, and like they were in each other's weddings, and people within the community got married together, and it's like, you know, harboring this heartwarming kind of vibe all around the thing of something they love, which should be the case for finding partnership, not AI love or, you know, like a robot sex doll.
Well, I think a trick bag is, and I try to do better about this myself, right? And that is like, if it's harmless, I don't want to ostracize people for their hobbies if it's not hurting anything. But like, this isn't my bag, and it is clearly like a thing for a certain subset, like a certain personality type. But people seem to clearly enjoy playing these games. Yep. They find them to be a lot of fun. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the elements of that stuff has been taken into like larger video games and everything else. You put a like cooler facade on top of it, but you're still doing a lot of the same thing. So I saw this story and I was like, yo, good for them. Like, for real, good for them. And maybe if the rest of us wasn't out here busy trying to act like we were so cool, we could find a similar way for us to connect. But hey, man, the dorks got one up on us. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I ain't about to be playing no Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm probably the one who's losing.
All right, Bo, we had the perfect voicemail prompt for our audience because we were both on vacation, and you asked, what is your worst vacation stories? We had a handful of really, really good submissions, and I'm glad neither of us have stories to tell in this segment from our vacation, but here's our first one.
Hey, Bomani, my worst vacation ever. So I had planned a trip to Europe for a very long time, saved up enough money to go. And shortly before I left, I met a girl. And it's probably about 3 months beforehand. And I'm telling her, hey, look, we've known each other for a long time, but we had just started a real relationship. Hey, look, I'm going to go to Europe. I've been planning this for a long time. I've wanted to do this. And, hey, I'll see you when you get back. So she begs me and begs me and begs me to go. And I'm like, all right, but look, we got to do what I want and go where I want. Because that was the idea. Stay at a hostel and do some other things. So that I have to spend a lot of money. But no, she wants to stay in really nice hotels. And so we go to Barcelona, and this person she decides to sleep in all day, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I spent all day in Barcelona for like 3 straight days just hanging out by myself while I'm paying for this expensive ass hotel. Then I'm like, hey, let's go to Paris. We take the midnight train to Paris, and all she can complain about is how she can't get any sleep because the seats are uncomfortable. When we get to Paris, she wants to go to Euro Disney. What? Euro Disney? I'm like, all right, we'll go. You're homesick. Let's go. It was trash. Absolute trash. We get back to Paris, and we are, like, no lie, watching Kung Fu Panda 2. And she starts talking about, like, all sorts of nonsense. And I'm like, okay, well, I've already booked the plane to Rome for both of us, right? She says she doesn't want to go. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Flight's booked. We get in a gigantic argument, and I end up telling her, hey, look, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay with me. So I'm going to London. I don't know where you're going, but it's not there. Get out of Europe. And after all these arguments, I kicked her out of the continent and went to London and had the best 7 days of my life. That is my worst vacation ever. Bye.
First of all, I didn't know you had the authority to kick anybody out of the whole Europe. I did. You the man around there. I gotta be honest with you, Pippin. I was on her side about this hostile situation. If I were you, the next time you tell this story, leave that part out. That does not make you a sympathetic figure. The rest of it, I'm on your side. I'm totally on your side. The rest of it, and I have to ask, when did this happen? Because from the sounds of it, it happened 15, 20 minutes ago. Tops. It sounds like it just happened.
It sounds
He's so hot.
It sounds so fresh, like the anger of like, I'm still dealing with this. And all the comments on YouTube are like, he still sounds pissed. So it clearly happened recently.
You know why he sounds pissed, and he should sound pissed, because what sounds very clear is that she just didn't want him to have any fun without her.
Yep.
She clearly didn't want to do this, right? Like what it means, I'm taking a trip to Europe. She clearly didn't want any of that. She just didn't want him to have any fun without him. And from the sounds of it, she didn't pay for a single thing.
Not a dime.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I might not have kicked her out the continent, but I give him credit for just cutting bait on that, man. I don't know. Damn. Tough break. That's why I be liking to travel by myself.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you spent that much already, it's like, yeah, well, how far deep can I go?
Yeah, nah, you also got to do a little more recon on who your person is before you start talking about going, like, around the world.
I don't even travel with
also,
friends,
was that
you know?
Well, also, was that the end of the whole thing? Because I don't know how you recover
exactly.
from that particular situation.
I'd love a follow-up if it was this recent. Maybe in like a week or two, this guy calls back.
Sean, can you imagine being like, I'm going to Rome, and she like, I don't feel like it?
Okay, bye.
You with your queen in Paris, and she want to kick it with Mickey and them?
Tough. Really tough.
Damn. Tough break, homie. Tough break.
All right, it's a nice transition, but here's our next voicemail.
Hey, Bo. Ryan from North Carolina calling about the worst vacation I ever had. I must have been about 14, and my mom and dad, grandparents, aunt and uncle took me and my little brother down to Disney for the first time. And I was right at that age where I really didn't really care about, the whole Disney experience. I was more worried about girls and stuff, young 14-year-old man. So the vacation was kind of whack to me already. But then what really turned it into the worst vacation of all time. One night we were staying in a rental house, not a hotel. I heard some scratching on the wall. It's about midnight. I'm like, what the hell is that scratching? I can't figure out what it is. Go to my parents' room, knock on the door, nobody answers. Knock a little louder, again, nothing. Well, I jiggle the door handle, it's open. So I walk in, and any kid's worst nightmare happened. Caught my mom and dad right in the middle of the deed. And, had to have that whole conversation because my dad and mom saw me. Obviously, the house wakes up when I freak out and run back to the room. But, definitely an embarrassing moment, one that I wish would never happen to anyone. But, hey, appreciate it, Bo.
Sean, he said it was 14, right?
Yeah.
They ain't have to talk about nothing.
No, he knows.
you know, they know that whatever happened, it just everybody acted like this didn't happen.
You're too old to do the like, oh, mommy and daddy were just fighting. You're too old for that.
Nah, you need to be glad they stopped. Like, that's the thing to me. I don't really see the point in stopping. Like we're already here. All right, like, we're already. What's done is done.
Incredible if they just look at you like, close the door. We're still going.
No, even incredible. Don't look at you. Just like people. I heard people tell stories about like walking in on their girl or their man or whatever, and they in the throes of passion with somebody else, and they don't even stop for you. They just like, oh, what's going on?
Brutal.
Can you get the door, please? We're busy. I'll talk to you in a little while, okay? All right. Go back to your room.
All right, here's our last one.
Hey, Bo, this is Cameron in Indianapolis calling in with my worst vacation ever. When I was 10 years old, I was fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to take a trip with my mom and my grandma, and we were going over to Austria to visit some family who lived in Germany. We were meeting at a cabin in the Alps. Sounds awesome. I got off to a rocky start pretty much immediately when we were in Indianapolis, getting ready to leave on the plane to meet up in Detroit. There was a thunderstorm, the vicious thunderstorm that delayed our flight, so it already had an auspicious start to begin with. When we got to Detroit, we took off, heading over to Amsterdam, and we were in the air for no more than 10 minutes before the pilot came on and said that one of the engines had caught on fire, and we had to make an emergency landing back in Detroit. I'm 10, I'm freaking out, throwing up, like turbulence like crazy. And, you would think at this point, maybe this would be the what we needed to tell us, hey, we shouldn't go. To make matters worse, somehow they'd messed up my grandma's ticket information on her flights, and it wasn't even having her go to the same airport as us. So we get off. They, move the crew over to a new plane. We safely land back in Detroit. We finally get over to Europe. We get to the Alps. It seems like everything's fine. Okay, we got here in one piece. It's going to be great. We're staying in a cabin up in the mountains. It's beautiful. And then what happens? No joke, an avalanche happens less than a mile away from where we are. It knocks the power out of the cabin. We are stranded on the mountain for an extra week. We were supposed to be there 1 week, ended up there for 2. It gets so bad, they can't get supplies in because the roads are all blocked off. They have to fly supplies in on helicopters. It got so bad, Bo, that we had to ration our toilet paper in the cabin because there just wasn't any more toilet paper to be found. Grocery stores on the mountain started running out of food. I mean, it was bad, Bo. I'm 10 years old, stuck in this cabin with a bunch of people. We all get sick. I mean, you name it, it happened. The avalanche, by the way, ended up being such a big deal. It got its own Wikipedia page. So it was just bad from start to finish. We did make it back to the States safely, but this is back in 1998, so all of our family back here had heard about this big avalanche in Austria. None of them even knew if we were alive. And never again, Bo. Never again.
Wow. I believe this is the 2019 avalanche.
Yeah.
Wow. It does have its. Wow. I don't know what to say like that other than you win, buddy. You win the prize.
I just want to pull up the 2019 avalanche for people on Perplexity, just in case people were not aware. March 2019, pretty recent. 8 people died statewide. It's funny, they also put the Colorado Avalanche as a team. But
that's what I was about to say, not to be confused with the Colorado Avalanche. 3-time NHL champions.
But yeah, it was funny because I know you were kind of in the Swiss Alps recently, and so very much the opposite of your trip, which I heard was lovely.
Yeah, I had a ball. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Wow. Tough break. As always, FUBU. But, Anyway, Sean, do you have picks for the people today?
Yeah, we got DraftKings with their pick'em. DeMar DeRozan 22.5 points. We're taking more there. Quentin Grimes 22.5 points as well. We're taking more. And Bam Adebayo 21.5 points. This is part of DraftKings' new Pick 6, which you can register now. And if you use the code Bomani, you might get $50 included if you deposit $5.
Ever the optimist, Sean. Ever the optimist. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 3 times a week. That's Sean. You handle everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Also, thanks to our If You Haven't Heard contributors. Thanks to Amy Piercy of Insider. Check out her story about how nerds have found the cure for loneliness. Thanks to Manisha Krishnan of Wired. Check out her story on the Gen Z doctor shortage. And thanks to Jaron Lanier. Check out his story on how your AI lover will change you at The New Yorker. Remember, follow The Right Time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater, and we'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.